Good evening. You're watching the main news on Hkibc. I'm Wynna Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Hong Kong's COVID caseload dips, but officials are waiting for Mid-Autumn Festival figures to assess the trend. 7 people are arrested for illegal road racing. And President Xi Jinping is to visit Central Asia in his first trip abroad since the start of the COVID pandemic. The number of new COVID cases has fallen below 8,000, but health officials say it is too early to say whether they have peaked. Another child, aged 10, is in critical condition after testing positive. Janice Lowe reports.
Hong Kong today logged 7,938 COVID cases, the lowest in over 2 weeks. But health officials are waiting for data from the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday to see whether infections have peaked.
The situation or the numbers had stabilized and declined these days, but we have to keep a close eye because we have to know whether it is related to the holiday. After the holiday, will there be a rebound? And has BA.5 peaked? Now it is at 68%. Will it stay at this percentage, or will there be the chance of a rise?
Among the 14 COVID patients who are in intensive care, one is a 10-year-old boy suffering from epilepsy. He contracted the virus on Friday and was admitted to Princess Margaret Hospital yesterday. Health officials suspect the source of infection to be within his family, as his parents, sister, and grandfather all tested positive earlier. The boy, who received 2 doses of Sinovac, also has symptoms of croup and shortness of breath and is said to be disoriented. Public hospitals are treating 2,753 COVID patients, 291 of whom are newly admitted. The virus claimed another 11 lives. Officials say the Omicron subvariants BA.4 and BA.5 account for around 77% of the total number of cases. Janice Lowe, Hkibc.
Police have arrested 7 people for illegal road racing after intercepting their cars. 6 of the vehicles are high-performance sports cars. Maisie Mock reports.
7 cars, including 6 high-performance sports cars, were spotted speeding along Wong Chuk Hang Road at around 7 a.m. They were driving at 90 to 100 kilometers per hour, exceeding the speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour. Police stopped the cars on Island Road near Deepwater Bay and arrested the drivers and 1 passenger. The drivers were arrested for illegal road racing, dangerous driving, and crossing double white lines. Lin Wai Lap from Police Enforcement and Control Division accused the drivers of neglecting the safety of other road users. He said one of the arrested drivers was unable to prove how he got the car. He and his passenger were arrested for taking the vehicle without authorization. 2 cars were found with trade plates, commonly used by vehicle dealers or repair workers for test drives. But the drivers were unable to prove that they are authorized to use trade licenses. All 8 people arrested were released on bail and have to report to police next month. Police have impounded the cars, while the Transport Department will investigate whether they have been modified illegally. Maisie Mock, Hkibc.
The Foreign Ministry has confirmed that President Xi Jinping will visit Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan later this week. It will be Xi's first official trip abroad since the COVID pandemic began more than 2 years ago. His 3-day tour, which begins on Wednesday, coincides with a regional security summit in the Uzbek city of Samarkand. Xi may meet Russian President Vladimir Putin, as Moscow is a member of the security group known as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. There is speculation that Xi may next go to Bali for a G20 summit in November, and may meet U.S. President Joe Biden face-to-face. Vice President Wang Qishan has visited the British Embassy in Beijing to sign the condolence book following the death of Queen Elizabeth. Wang, who was representing President Xi Jinping as well as China's government and people, observed a moment of silence in front of a portrait of the late monarch. The vice president said Elizabeth had contributed greatly to Sino-British relations. In Hong Kong, many people used the last day of the long holiday weekend to pay their respects outside the British consulate in Admiralty. A queue stretched to Hong Kong Park, and it took 3 hours for people to reach the front to place flowers, candles, and photos of the Queen. Elizabeth's coffin has arrived in the Scottish capital, Edinburgh, at the end of the first leg of a long journey before she's laid to rest. Her successor, King Charles, continued his busy schedule as the new monarch, accepting condolences from politicians in London.
Britain's new monarch, King Charles III, accepted condolences following the death of Queen Elizabeth from members of both Houses of Parliament. Prime Minister Liz Truss and her predecessors Boris Johnson and Theresa May were among those present at Westminster Hall in London.
I am deeply grateful for the addresses of condolence by the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which so touchingly encompass what our late sovereign, my beloved mother, the Queen, meant to us all. As I stand before you today, I cannot help but feel the weight of history which surrounds us.
Charles then flew to Edinburgh to attend a special service for the Queen. Earlier, farmers used their tractors to pay tribute as a motorcade carrying the Queen's coffin passed through the Scottish countryside on its way to Edinburgh from Balmoral Castle, where Elizabeth died last Thursday. In the Scottish capital, mourners bid farewell to the monarch, who died at the age of 96 after ruling for 7 decades.
She was a lovely lady, great mother, grandmother, and she did well. Very proud of her.
Just important to say goodbye.
She's been on the throne for a long time. So, yeah, it means a lot.
After a night in Edinburgh, the Queen's body will be flown to London and will lie in state in Parliament until her funeral next Monday. Prince Harry, who made a surprise appearance with his brother William over the weekend, released his first statement since his grandmother's death. "Thank you for your sound advice," he wrote. "Thank you for your infectious smile."
Back in Hong Kong, business has been grim at the shopping festival at Asia World Expo. The 4-day event coincided with the Mid-Autumn Festival, but despite the crowds, sales were not brisk. Maisie Mock reports.
People swarmed Asia World Expo next to the airport with trolleys and tote bags to get the best deal on food and household products. As it was the last day of the 4-day event, exhibitors at the Hong Kong Brands and Products Shopping Festival offered discounts. This man, who was eyeing dry-cured ham and frozen meat, expected to spend around $3,000. But this visitor said the event wasn't too appealing, as another food fair was held at the Convention and Exhibition Center just last month. This woman said the location was too far, and she was unhappy with a ban on food tasting. Several exhibitors said despite the large turnout, sales were grim. This frozen meat vendor expects revenue to be less than half of last year's. He said the $2,000 worth of consumption voucher disbursed last month did not boost his sales, as people had already used them elsewhere. Another exhibitor, who sells cooked meat in packets, said purchases were affected by the poor economy and a lack of tourists. Maisie Mock, Hkibc.
Hong Kong's air quality reached serious levels this afternoon. Monitoring stations recorded the Air Quality Health Index reaching 10+ on the whole of Hong Kong Island, Kwun Tong and Tseung Kwan O, indicating a serious health risk. Environmental officials say a dry continental airstream is making it difficult for pollutants to disperse. The health risk category is expected to remain high or above in the coming days. COVID has been blamed for the late delivery of minibuses that are wheelchair-friendly. This has forced wheelchair-bound commuters to pay more by taking other forms of transport. Janice Lowe reports.
A pilot scheme for wheelchair-friendly minibuses was launched 4 years ago. However, there are only 3 such minibus routes today. Number 54M runs between Kennedy Town Station and Queen Mary Hospital. 808 starts in Kam Yin Court in Ma On Shan and serves the Prince of Wales Hospital. And 413 goes from the Chengyi Ferry Terminus to Princess Margaret Hospital. When they win a tender for a license, minibus operators have to agree to provide low-floor wheelchair-accessible vehicles within the first year. But many have not been able to meet the requirement. One is number 503 that started operating in August last year between Queen's Hill and North District Hospital. Its wheelchair-friendly minibus will only begin running later this year. This meant those who need to use the service have to opt for other means of transport instead. This man, who has to head to North District Hospital, has no choice but to take the taxi, which costs much more. The Transport Department says that as wheelchair-friendly minibuses are made in Britain, the pandemic has delayed the shipping schedule. Janice Lowe, Hkibc.
2 teenagers were denied bail when they appeared in Sha Tin Magistracy in connection with a murder in Tuen Mun last month. The pair, aged 16 and 17, were charged with wounding or striking with intent to cause grievous bodily harm outside a restaurant. They were remanded in custody until they appear in court again next month. 8 people have been arrested so far in connection with the case. On to the weather now. Fine and dry tomorrow and also very hot. Expect a top temperature of 35 degrees. It will continue to sizzle until the weekend. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. And that's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Wynna Wong. Good night.